Hi everyone, this is Gail from Gail Julie Makes. I hope you're all doing well. It's been a long time since I've been on the channel, but thanks to all those that have still been in contact with me and given me encouragement, and to those that have still been watching videos. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, I'm back, and hopefully I'll be back a lot more now. I'm hoping to get into a regular rhythm again with the videos. So I wanted to start off with a simple card. Now I'm hoping this will help some of those people that maybe have lost their mojo a bit, or that are feeling a bit overwhelmed with the amount of supplies they have. So if you do want to follow along with this tutorial, you'll need the following stamps. I'm using Falling Ivy, Mini Pipin from the pound stamp range, Creeping Vine, Mooch and the Sacred Spell stamp. Now you can use any text stamp you like, and also you can chop and change any of these out, like Falling Ivy. You could use any kind of creeping foliage, and you know, feel free to use a different colour mix if you want to. Whatever you want to swap out for what you've got in your supplies, that's great. As well as the stamps, we're going to be using an A6 Multifarious card from Lavinia, which is about postcard size, and the following inks. Okay, so we've got Versafine Clair, Medieval Blue, Paradise, Warm Breeze, Nocturne and Twilight. So a lot of blue colours basically, because that's what we're going for. And I'm also going to be using a 10cm circle template. Now you can do it a bit smaller than that if you want to, but I've just cut that out with my own circle cutter. You can buy these sort of templates as well, so, or you could just get a cup and maybe draw around that. Might be a tiny bit smaller, but it's, you know, it's fine. And I'm using the Lavinia berry stencil, and what I tend to do is cut the free edges off mine so that don't get too close to the borders when blending and get that sort of line effect. I'm also using the Aqua green Posca pen. I also use the white Signo pen, but you could use a Posca pen again, and I use the blue Signo pen as well, sort of metallic colour. And I'm going to be using a so smoothie is needed, and you could use a stencil brush if you prefer. And I've got a blue, dark blue pastel pencil and a black pastel pencil. The only other thing I'm going to be using really is the Brusho. So I've got Turquoise Brusho. I've got a Prussian blue there, but I don't end up using that one. It's a bit darker. And I use a Cosmic Shimmer Pixie powder in Aqua Lagoon, just to give me like a bit of a shimmer in certain areas on the background. Okay, so let's get started. So I've laid my postcard down in the tray, and I'm using my Turquoise Brusho. For those that don't know, Brusho is basically a watercolour pigment in like a powder form. And what we can do is we can lay that down and then spritz some water on it, which is why I've got it in this tray. Sorry, it's a bit sort of shadowy, but it's not great lighting outside today. So what I'm going to do is spray that, and then I'm just going to get it moving around a bit. And a little bit more. And you can add more at this stage. Obviously it will react with the water. Lavinia also do their own version of this product. They do dinkles now, but there is a slight difference. The Brushos tend well, quite often have like more than one pigment in, so they'll split, the coloration will split, a bit like granulating in watercolours. So you might get this one doesn't particularly do that, it's very blue, but some colours, for example, you might get a black that's got a hint of red, so the black and the red pigments will separate out. The dinkles tend to just be one straight colour, and they're very vibrant, so depends what effect you want really. But I'm going with Brushos today because that's what the original product that I got. You could also use Elements inks for this. You could just put some down on your mat and then swoosh it in, or smoosh it in like that. You could do that, but I'm just keeping it running at the moment. I don't think I necessarily want all of the card. This one, the other card, I did cover all of the card in this, but I'm not thinking I want to do that this time. Just leave a few more gaps. You do get very mucky fingers from this, but it's all part of the fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, I have this Cosmic Shimmer Pixie powder. Now this is Aqua Lagoon. It's quite interesting, this one, because it just gives you a little bit of a sort of shimmery pigment to it. As we lay it down, it doesn't really look like it's doing anything, but it's quite an interesting thing to just add to the odd corner here and there. I don't really want it where I'm going to put the animals so much, but I think that will probably be enough actually. And then what I'm going to do is just spritz it again slightly. And then maybe just dab a bit of it out as well. Just move a bit of it around. It just makes that sort of, it's like this bit here, look, it just makes for a bit more interesting texture in the background, which is why I've focused on getting it mainly in the corners. So I might just add a bit, move a bit of this down maybe. So you can just angle your spray to wherever you want it to move, and then just add a little bit in that corner as well, just because it gives you a bit more interest. Okay, hope that makes sense. Right, get a bit more back down there. There we go. So I don't like it to pull too much in straight lines at the corners, so I try and avoid that. But what I'm going to do now is just dry that quickly. I won't show you all of this, but we'll get started. Okay, now we're all nice and dry. Now, I did use an air dryer for that, but if you're using a heat gun, obviously don't get it too close to your fingers when you're drying. But, you know the score with that sort of thing. Right, okay, so we have got a bit of that kind of pigment shown through there, look, and it's a little bit textured now, so I'm just going to sort of try and brush that off just in case it makes it tricky for the stencil going on there. But quite pleased with the result of that. Okay, so let's get started. So I've got my card and I've got my stencil, and I'm just going to place that at a little bit of an angle to make it look more natural. Always sticks to my cardigan when I'm trying to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of my inks. Last time I used Warm Breeze, so I think I'll do the same again. So I'm going to take that off. Sorry, I haven't done a tutorial for a while, so I'm a bit I'm not used to it at the moment. Let's get back into the flow, eh? Right, so I've got my Warm Breeze ink then, Versafine Clair, and I'm going to get that on my smoothie or blender. You could use a stencil brush for this. I've just traditionally always gone for these smoothies, but I will at some point in the future go for some of those stencil brushes from Lavinia, I think, because so many people have said they're really good. And it's always good to get a recommendation from people, especially with things like brushes, because you do need to spend a little bit more money on them. I've noticed that when I've done watercolour painting as well. Quite often the bristles will come out if you buy cheap brushes, so it's just good to know you're getting a good quality one. But use what you've got. Use what you like to use. Everybody's got something slightly different they want to use, haven't they? So that's fine, no problem there. Okay, so I'm just basically going over the stencil. I'm not worried if I've got some darker patches than others. I can go straight on from my pad. I don't have to keep rubbing it off to get a light touch, because I want light and dark areas anyway. So, and I am covering a lot of those white areas that I left. But I think it's nice to give it a bit of texture. So we can see, oh yeah, that's coming out nice, yeah. So I'm happy with that. I've got some whiter areas, but that's fine. If you're worried about that, what you can do is just take a bit more off your brush and just dab in a little bit there. So you're just toning them down a little bit, which I think we will do. There we go. Okay, so I am happy with that. Right, next stage then is I will get the moon in place. So what I did with this last time was I just lay it roughly where I want to place it. So I just wanted about an even amount on each side there, and I wanted it fairly close to the top, so I think I'm going to go about here. And then all I'm going to do is go around the edge with a darker colour. So let's go for Twilight, I think. Okay, and again, I'm just going to use the same smoothie because it's a blue, so that's fine. And what I'm going to do is, I do quite like some of the bits at the top there, but it's hopefully it will show through a bit on the Twilight. So I'm just going to kind of dab a bit off and then just start going around the edge, and you can still see some of that in the background, which is really good. Okay, so we just want to have that slight bit of plant or foliage showing through, and then I'm just going to go a bit further down as well, and just still want quite a bit of light down here, so I'm kind of taking it around the edge of the actual moon, but I don't want to lose all of my kind of texture and foliage that I've provided from the stencil there. So then obviously this is going to be stamped over this bit, so there we go. So I'll take that off and I'm getting that, which is really nice, stands out well. Okay, and then what I think I'll do is flip it over. So there you go, you can see it a little bit better. So that's really standing out already. For the stamping, we're using Nocturne Versafine Clair, and we're adding the Creeping Vine to our acrylic block. We're going to ink that up. And I'm going to ink up the whole thing. It won't stretch across the whole picture, but what I'm going to do is use just this end again afterwards, so I'll show you that. So made sure I've inked up well. I always end up getting some on the actual plate, so I'm just going to rub that off because I don't want that to end up on the actual piece. Okay, so lining that up, and what we're going to do is just lay that down part way down on the moon. And I want to take that to the edge initially. So we're going to go to about here. So we just can still see a bit of the moon underneath, basically. So I'm going to press that down. Now, obviously, because we've put a slightly different pigment on the Multifarious card, I just want to make sure I'm kind of soaking the ink in for a little bit longer. So I'm just pressing down on it for a little bit longer. And giving it a really firm press. Okay, then we can take that off. And now what we want to do is re-stamp this little bit here. Okay, and we're just going to press that on again. Just going to kind of slightly overlap it so it looks quite natural. Okay, obviously this is a good way. Just going to make sure I've got a bit. Just doesn't matter if we go a bit over, because that will just end up on the paper here. Yeah, a lot of stamps you can kind of extend their use this way, turn things around. There we go. And I'm just going to press that on the end. You can maybe turn things around, or just use a section of a stamp to give yourself a different effect, or make a longer tree, or, you know, just make a little bit of extra unusual looking foliage maybe. There we go. So you can see that stamped a little bit darker, so I should have put a bit more ink on when I did this first stamp really, but it's going to be hard to line it up now. This is when a stamping platform can come in useful, but it's fine because I'll probably just go over this with a bit of a pencil anyway. So we have got our base layer there. You can see some of that nice pigment shining through there. Look, very pretty. Okay, and so yeah, if you're not confident in your stamping, I just suggest practicing a few stamps here. I think the thing is I'm kind of a bit worried about rocking the table too much, which is why I didn't apply enough pressure here, but it's fine. It's not a problem. And I don't want to kind of ruin it by pushing it further and ending up sort of smudging it or blurring it. Okay, so that's my stamping done for that bit. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in Mooch, and I want to make sure he's stamped really well. I can go over him if not, but I do really want to make sure he is stamped well. So get plenty of ink on there. He's got a slight discoloration from when I've used Elements inks on him, because they do stain a little bit, but that won't show up on the actual picture. Okay, so right, looking at him, looks okay. I don't think we've got any over the edges there. And I'm just going to bring him in and sit him about, we'll go for, I want to make sure he's fully in the moon, you see. So I'm going to go for about here and press him down. Obviously, if you've got a stamping platform and you prefer using that, then you can just keep re-going over him. Okay, so I'll take that off. So he's come out pretty well there, pretty pleased with that. And then I am going to bring in Pipin, merely Pipin. Okay, there he is. And we'll give him a bit of a stamp. Now, you might want to move your picture completely out of the way when you do your stamping. Probably wise. I usually end up being very clumsy and dropping things on there and then regretting not moving something. So yeah, just looking to see if I could, if I've gone over any edges. And I'm just going to pop Pipin down around about here, looking up at Mooch. There we go. So we've stamped Pipin, we've stamped Mooch. And now we're going to start building up a little bit more around the edges. So we have got the text we can use. So what I did with the text was I did this in a different colour. So I did this in Twilight, I think. Yeah, I did. And then so I just stamped that out. And then what I will do, I'll stamp the whole piece. And then we'll just do second generation. So I'm just going to stamp that off, and then I'm just going to add some to this top corner, so it's not going to stand out really really strongly, but it just gives a little bit more texture to the whole piece. Okay, so there we go, we can just see it faintly in the background there, and then we're going to just do the same again just around about here. Now, you can use other text for this. This one is quite a fine text, like handwriting. So, some of the other texts probably stand out a little bit more for this, like there's like a fairy text that's just a few words on one piece. That's probably going to do really well for this. I think I used that on my previous one I did of this quite a long time ago now. So this one is going to stand out more, as you can see, because I haven't done it second generation. I think that works pretty well like that. So I'll just stamp that off a little bit so my stamp's a bit cleaner. There we go. Okay, next one then is I'm going to start adding, so we've got our text here, our text here. So the last jobs are these bits of ivy coming down. And I'm going to stamp those in Paradise. Versafine Clair Paradise. And this is just a sort of focal point for them to look at. So, you know, you could use some of the hanging fairy pods for this, which is what I did on my original, but I don't have those particular stamps at the moment because sometimes I sell some on to buy some of the new ones, as they're always bringing out such beautiful new ones. Okay, so this one, obviously we've got a bit of ink on here, so I always watch out for that. Got a little rag I was using earlier, and I'm just going to wipe that off because obviously I don't want that going on my picture. And I'm just going to do that hanging down. Oh, see, very easy to catch your stamp pad. There's a lot of how not to do's in this, guys. I hope they're helping. And I'm just going to take that bit off the edge and press that down. Obviously, another thing I know can be quite confusing, and it's sometimes confusing for me, is kind of getting all your use of your different colour inks, because sometimes you think, well, where am I going to place that colour? But if you're doing a predominantly blue background, then obviously you can get your blue inks into play there, because if it's like bluish lighting, then it's going to be the same in your, you know, foliage as well as your sort of main picture. So I'm just stamping up a little bit more of this. And what I'm going to do on this one, this ink pad seems to love going onto my block, look. So wipe that off. And then I'm just going to do second. Now actually for this, yeah, no, I'm going to do second generation stamp for this. So take a bit off and push this a bit further this way. So it just pushes it into the background a bit more, because it's a sort of a lighter version of it. And then I'm going to turn this around so it looks a little bit different. I'm just going to stamp this bottom bit. And I'm going to add this piece, going a little bit shorter, to that middle section there. So it's just a question of, you know, almost like you don't want all of your bits of foliage to be exactly the same length, because then it just looks too unorganic. So a little bit shorter than that one, not much, but the leaves are a little bit smaller, so that works with that. So then what I'm going to do is just use the bottom small leaves again, and just in front of that second generation stamp, I'm just going to pop that as well. So we'll do a shorter one round about there. There we go. Okay, yeah, happy with that. So this one is turning out quite a little bit darker than this previous one, but that's fine. I mean, they're all going to look slightly different. So what I'm going to do now then is just show you, that's all the stamping done. And I'm just going to go in and make sure we've got all our lids on. That's one thing I do forget to do sometimes. Just going to go in and add a little bit of colour just to shade in Pipin. So I've got my black pastel pencil there. Now you could use a watercolour pencil. Obviously if you use any water over the top though, remember it's going to activate. Now you can fix these with like a mixed media fixative. I think some people do use hairspray, but I've heard somebody say recently that can kind of create a bit of a yellowing effect, so I'm avoiding that. But yeah, you can use a mixed media fixative to fix these pastel pencils and pan pastels. I don't usually bother though, to be honest, because you know, I usually just display the pictures at home. You can see we've got some of that sort of pigment coming through there, and some of the, I don't know if you can see that. You can see that that stencil pattern underneath, but I kind of quite like that because it almost looks like it's lighting Mooch up with the sort of shapes that are being, you know, lit up in the sky. So I'm just going to go over that mostly, but I'm not too fussed if it does shine through a little bit. It's fine. Just gives him a little bit more character on his fur. Okay, so there we go. Or you can, another thing that I quite often do, if I haven't quite stamped dark enough, is I will get my same ink pad, Nocturne ink pad, use a little brush on it, and just brush on your ink if you've got, especially if you've got small areas to cover. That works really well as well. Right, so now this branch, I'm just going to kind of go over it a bit with black, just in a couple of areas, but I want to make it stand out still, so I'm going to just go over with a little bit of blue as well. I've got my blue pastel pencil here, and I'm just going to give it a little bit of blue shading. Let's just maybe go over a bit more black here as well, but obviously I still want some light to show through on it as well, because there's light from the moon, so you know, we don't want to lose that sort of look completely. So we'll just go over a few. Gone over too much there. There we go. That looks fine though. A few areas like that, just to show us the detail of that a bit more. Okay, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to add some edging with a bit of medieval blue. So again, I'm going to use this same smoothie because they're all dark colours. So medieval blue is like quite a purplish tone, and I'm just going to bring a bit of that in at the bottom. I always like to edge my work with a colour just to make everything in the middle pop, but also I think it gives it a bit of a sort of fairy tale like quality. So it just gives it a bit of extra depth really, which is what we're always looking out for. Okay, so you do end up covering some of those bits of foliage, but it's fine because, you know, it makes it look more natural. So there we go, we've done some more edging. Let's just bring a bit more around there. There we go. Okay. And what we're going to do now is bring in a Posca pen. Make sure you put your lid on. We will add a little bit more black around the edges as well. So that's just our sort of final popper colour. And what we're going to do is we are going to bring in... This is the Aqua Green, which is one of my favourite, well, I would say my favourite Posca pen. And we're just going to add some little dots or little orbs. Or they could be stars in the distance. And I'm just doing these in all different sizes. And they just give a little bit of extra character to a piece, really. Make it look a bit more magical. Obviously you don't want to go too crazy with this, but it also reminds me a little bit of the corner stamps as well. There we go. Maybe another big one there. Okay, so it just gives you a bit more character. And then at the bottom, let's just maybe do a few more dotted in amongst the ivy there as well. And then, yeah, what I did at the bottom was I used a Signo pen, and this is the blue one, and I just went in and did a few dots down here. Now, you can't really see them very well, but it just, again, gives it a little bit more texture. And you could do that in a different colour if you wanted to. You could do that in a bit of white. We can go in with our white pen. So what we can do is just smudge that out a bit, because obviously that's pastel pencil. So we can go in with our Signo white, and we can just do a little bit of a sort of highlight on the angle that would be, be catching on this edge of the animals. So we can just add that in. I don't tend to go too heavy on this. I tend to smudge it because I don't want it to stand out. I don't want it to be, really too heavy a highlight, because I think that's just not really my style, I guess. It's just one of those things. But some people I know do it and it looks beautiful. So it's just your personal taste, really. And then maybe a little bit of highlighting on the branch there. That's just by Mooch's tail, actually. Maybe a bit there. So you can just keep embellishing as you want, as you go along, really. You could even carry these dots on around here if you wanted to, but I'm quite happy with that as a finished piece, apart from adding my pop of black around the edge. So let's get our Nocturne, go for the same smoothie, and I'm just going to add that black around the very edge. So it will cover some of these sort of Posca marks, but again, that's fine because it gives you more depth. It sort of pushes some of it to the front and some to the back. So there we go. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. There's the two together. As you can see there, let's just turn this around. Oh, get a new white sheet, sorry. So here we go. So that's the one I did earlier. That's the one we've just done together. And yeah, it's the foliage in this one is more subtle, but they're both great pieces just to do really quickly. So you can see as well, you can see that beautiful shine going on where that Pixie powder was. So you could also use mica minerals that Lavinia make to do that as well. But I hope that tutorial helped you. I hope it inspired you a little bit, and I hope it has made you realise that, it doesn't have to be a really complicated piece. And I wanted to record this video mostly in real time, so it shows you what you can achieve if you've got a spare half an hour to an hour to get your supplies out. I know this length of video won't be for everyone, but I do hope you stuck around and made it to the end. So I will be making more Lavinia videos. I also do a lot of gel plate videos, so if you want to have a browse around the channel, see what you like. And thumbs up is always appreciated, as that helps spread the word a little bit more. Also, if you want to subscribe to my channel, just hit the bell and all notifications, and that will let you know whenever I've got a new video coming out. So have a good week, guys. Take care of yourselves, get some crafting done, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.